doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Hi.
Welcome to Under Further Review.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Kata.
Good to see you.
That was really abrupt as like a start. I don't know.
Do you want to try it again?
No, it's fine.
Okay, cool.
I'm good with it.
Hello.
It is what it is.
Hello.
We're keeping it realistic around here.
Welcome to your assholes but fun. Your drunk heathens of sports media.
Yeah.
This is Under Further Review, presented in part by Last Word on Sports.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for everybody for joining us today. If you are a first-time listener, welcome. You've joined the most exciting sports podcast ever.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and follow all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at the handle UFR Vodcast. You can also find us, our podcast, which comes out every Thursday, wherever you find podcasts, except for Spotify, because we're not that cool yet. We've got a big old football-packed show for y'all today.
I know, it's very exciting. You guys really didn't do a whole lot in the world of football last week. By the way, thanks for the week off.
Of course. Oh, by the way, special thanks to Mike Rose for stepping in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really great show last week.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun to listen to. Like, you guys just absolutely did such a good job. And it's always, you know what, it's fun to just stir up the energy of the thing.
We tried to make you proud. And
you did.
Good. Oh, good. Okay.
You did. This is also, by the way, our listeners can't see this, but this is the second week that you have unintentionally matched with your co-host.
Yes.
We're both wearing jeans and, like,
correct,
dark, whatever. It's
dark V-neck t-shirts.
You're just, like, very in the soul of, like, very in tune with who you're working with in these few weeks. It's a lot, but it's
That's what makes
nice.
me a good co-host, is that I can just read your mind.
It's inspiring.
And I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
We
got an email.
We got an email. That's how we want to start. This email is from Hunter. Hey, Andrew and Kata. Part of my FFB, fantasy football, strategy this year was to pick guys who have contracts ending soon because I figured they'd try harder. When I did some research, I noticed a lot of kickers have contracts that end in 2020 more than any other position. Why is this? Peace, Hunter. Hunter, this is a very interesting email for a lot of reasons.
And very difficult as well.
But I wanna unpack it starting with the beginning when Hunter said that their strategy is to pick guys who have contracts ending soon. I think that's bold.
I do too, but I think if it pays off, it's really smart. It's a lot like, Hunter has a point in that people who are playing for contracts tend to work harder.
Sure.
Because they're trying to earn that big money. Dak Prescott on Sunday night is a big purveyor of that. He's playing for a new contract. He's moving on from his rookie deal. He had a great game on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Even though the Cowboys lost, I thought he did great.
The Cowboys won.
No, they didn't. They lost.
Oh, they lost.
Yeah.
They lost. My bad.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm losing my mind.
But, yeah, it's a really interesting, bold strategy. It's a lot like playing the lottery, because if it pays off, it'll pay off big, and that player earns a lot of money and becomes one of the higher echelon players in the NFL just because of their skill level and the amount of money that they're being paid.
Right. No, I definitely see a lot of reasoning behind that. It's so funny too, though, because I feel like when you're looking at like the top 10 like picks. Like, it's your first pick, and you're like, oh, I want this guy, this guy, this guy. Everyone goes for, like, the really hot rookies or, like, second years who are doing really well, but they're still on their rookie contracts and everything. So that's a really unique strategy, and definitely one that I want to look more into, obviously, because this year I'm basically tanking my season at this point. But then we get into this kickers situation. A lot of kickers have contracts that end in 2020 more than any other position. Why is this? And you've done the research here, but, to summarize, I think the situation is kickers in the NFL have just become like this dispensable position. And on top of it, like if a kicker, it's so easy to judge whether a kicker is performing well. Like, the stats literally say everything. Plus, they don't do a whole lot besides kick the ball. So they get paid a lot less than other players. What have you found? Right.
Okay. So, as you know, since they moved the extra point line back from the 2-yard line to the 15-yard line, it's made a huge difference.
Okay.
So before they moved the extra point line, the percentage of point after attempts after touchdowns was sky high. It was 97%
wow.
since 1989. And then when they moved the extra point line back to the 15-yard line, making it a 35-yard field goal, it's dropped to 94%. So it's made, it's not a considerable percentage drop, but it is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's made things a lot harder. Also, just barely, like by the eyeball test in general, kickers I feel like have become far less reliable. We've seen kickers that are usually automatic miss kicks that they shouldn't. I mean, as a Patriots fan, Steven Gostkowski's been the Patriots kicker for a long, long time, and he's been mostly automatic, but in these last couple of years, he's missed some kicks that he should make.
Right.
I mean, I've seen him bank off the upright a couple times, which is now kind of just something that I'm used to with him. Even like in the Super Bowl when they made the big comeback against the Falcons, he doinked an extra point off the upright, and I was just like, oh, here we go, typical Gostkowski. I feel like the kicker position has just become more and more expendable just based on how many kickers are missing field goals nowadays. It's become a problem.
Yeah.
This issue of kickers running out their contracts at the end of next year is very interesting. I don't know if that's some kind of just coincidence, but I did the research about how many kickers teams have gone through just in the last 5 years. It's a lot more than I thought.
Oh.
So I went through, on average, so overall, NFL teams have gone through 121 kickers in the last 5 years. That's all 32 NFL teams. Mm-hmm. On average, NFL teams go through just under 4 kickers every 5 years, which is just over 1 a season.
Wow. Through
all these NFL teams, only 3 NFL teams have had permanent kickers in the last 5 years.
Okay.
3, meaning that they've had 1 from 2014 to now. That's the Ravens, the Packers, and the Colts. Justin Tucker, the kicker for the Ravens, cashed in on a contract extension earlier this year. He's making bank. He's making $23 million a year.
Wow.
With not a year. He's making $23 million over 4 years, with $12.5 million of it guaranteed, plus an $8 million signing bonus. On top of that, Mason Crosby signed an extension in 2017 for 5 years. He's under contract. He's going to be making $16.1 million through 2022. The outlier to this is Adam Vinatieri, who plays for the Colts.
Right.
Who has been garbage this year. He's also 45 years old, but he's missed 14 field goals this year, which is the most of his career.
Right.
And that, to me, is the summation of how the kicker position has kind of morphed in the last 5 years. We used to have all these long-standing kickers, and now you just have, teams going through 3 kickers, 4 kickers, 3 kickers, 7 kickers. I'm just going down the line here. 8 kickers, as many as 9. The Chargers have gone through 9 kickers in the last 5 years.
That's aggressive.
And I mean, they have your permanent starter kickers, but also it's people who have just lined up to kick extra points in replacement of these kickers. It's absurd how many kickers these teams go through.
Yeah.
And I never realized it until now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, in my opinion, kickers have kind of become expendable, and it's ever since they moved the extra point line back that we've really seen this issue magnified.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting thing too. Like, you think about like, quote unquote, like franchise kickers. Like, I was shocked, for instance, earlier this season when the Atlanta Falcons released their kicker Matt Bryant, and then they held auditions or whatever, and ended up just re-signing him, and then they released him again this past week. And it's a unique position, but it is the easiest position to judge, I think.
Absolutely. You either make it or you don't.
Yeah, Cody Parkey.
Exactly
Double
right.
doink.
Cody Parkey's bounced around through a lot of teams, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I also just want to tie back to Mason Crosby really quick, he's under contract for a while. Keep in mind, the dude missed 5 field goals in 1 game last year.
Yeah.
And so it just has to do with whether or not the team wants to keep them around.
Right.
But again, I agree with you. It is the easiest position to judge. And I think that because it's become so magnified since all the kicking rules have changed, the pressure is more on kickers to succeed now more than ever.
Sure.
And I think that's why you're seeing kickers signed to contracts that are very short, is because that's their trial window.
Right.
It's very easy to find some guy who can go out and kick a field goal. There was one team, I don't remember who it was, but they went out and gave a tryout to a kicker that they found on YouTube.
Yeah.
He was doing like trick shot field goals.
Oh, I don't remember who it was.
It may have been, I think it was the Eagles. I could be wrong. But like literally, that's how easy to go out and find a kicker it is.
Right.
That's how easy it is to go out and find a kicker these days.
I wonder, that actually brings up a really interesting question. How many, comparatively, if you were to say, the NCAA pool of wide receivers, how many of them make it to the NFL versus how many NCAA kickers do? I bet the number is a lot higher with kickers. I bet like all those college kickers are making it in the NFL.
I feel like we don't pay attention to them enough. They all get picked in like, the 6th or 7th rounds.
Yeah.
Unless, you have a Sebastian Janikowski who went in the first round when he was drafted.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Well,
but...
he's Sebastian Janikowski. He's
sure,
a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah, it's weird that you don't really pay attention to all these people. And it's also funny that kickers don't go to, like, the top schools that you think. Like Adam Vinatieri, who's been in the league forever. South Dakota State.
Yeah.
Like a Division I AA school.
Uh-huh.
Like, you don't pay attention to these guys as much because they're not part of the big programs. Obviously, the wide receiver positions in college are more high profile. They mean more in games. And you don't see these kickers make it to the NFL because they're off pursuing other things.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a really interesting question and definitely worth doing more research on. So, hey, thank you so much, Hunter. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you to anybody who makes us do research for these questions.
Yeah, no, we love it, though, because that's the whole, you know what? The whole point and fun of this show is, like, kind of just the learning aspect of it. And because, and I think there's a fair amount of our listenership who is not, they're not as, well-versed in football as, like, a listener of, say, Stephen A. Smith's or something, whatever. But we like to do things a little bit weirdly and differently, and it's fun to just kind of learn about these strange anomalies and things like that.
A question for you, based just on fantasy football: How married
Okay.
How married are you to your current kicker? First of all, let's talk about the league that we'll talk about a little bit later. Who's your kicker? Firstly,
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
And I think that
was
like
my
off
question.
the top of my head, I don't have my phone with me. But I think that tells you how not married I am.
Okay.
I usually pick the best guy I think is available. I know I don't usually go out and like specifically pick kickers. I remember one league this year when I was drafting, I got really cocky about everything that I was doing, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do like this move that no one's gonna expect of me, and it's gonna be awesome and blah blah blah. And of course I'm gonna lose in like all of my leagues this year, but I went out and specifically picked up Aldrick Rosas from the Giants because he has been, this year, not as good as last year, but he's always been very reliable. And honestly, like a lot of teams, there are more teams in the NFL than the Giants who like, of the teams in the NFL, the Giants are not the most likely to be kicking field goals. But I would rather have a reliable kicker than a kicker who just happens to kick a lot of field goals. So, like, as opposed to a kicker who's going to miss a bunch.
Interesting. Okay. I think with exceptions, any kicker can do well on any given day.
Sure, exactly.
I don't think it matters, and I don't think it should matter. And I feel like people, at least novice fantasy players, or maybe in my league, as a generalization, we place too much. We place too much. What's the word I'm looking for here? We place too much value on our kickers.
Yeah.
We put too much value on our kickers, and we tend to stick with them, even though you could literally just like switch out kickers, and I don't think it would matter.
Yeah.
With exceptions, of course. I mean, if you have a kicker who's like notably terrible,
right,
you're not gonna want him on your team. Like the poor guy for the Jets earlier this year, who they brought in from like Norway or something like that, and he missed 3 field goals or something like that. I think any kicker can go off on any given day.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I don't think it matters. And I think because it doesn't matter, that's an example of why the contracts these days are so short.
Well, I mean, and their jobs too rely so heavily on what happens before they hit the field and like the defenses that they're playing and what's happening with their teammates before they are forced to, kick a field goal or kick an extra point. And so it really just, it depends. But I have always kind of seen, unfortunately, the kicker as expendable. And I think that maybe we should change that. Maybe a little bit of loyalty will kind of up the game of the kickers.
Maybe a little bit.
Contract-wise.
Yeah, sure. But like, I wouldn't sign a guy to a contract if he's going out and missing field goals in clutch situations.
No.
I mean, if you can make all of your field goals, you should be entitled to a contract.
I agree.
But if you can't, then you shouldn't. And I think the NFL's made it harder for kickers to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why the contracts are so short these days. I mean, it's a give and take kind of thing. I mean, you can't sign someone to a contract for 5 years just because they're your kicker.
Right.
You know, just because you have them on your team. They need to be able to perform well. And if they don't, they should be out.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I never thought that we talk about kickers on this show, like as seriously as we are.
Yeah, you know what? Every day is a new surprise, baby.
It's true. It's true.
Every single day.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to do the email thing. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you want to take a break?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a break. If you have any questions for us, like Hunter, and you want to make us do more research, we welcome it, firstly. But feel free to hit us up, shoot us an email at andrewandankata@gmail.com. If you have any other comments or anything like that, please feel free to send them our way, and we'll read them on the show if we really like them.
Hate mail is welcome, too.
Yeah, true.
We don't love it, but we will address it.
We accept it.
Yes.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about, we're at the midway point of the NFL, so we've got some awards to give out.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about fantasy a little bit later in the show. I've got some updates from last week that I want to share with the class.
Very exciting.
Everybody stick around. We'll be back in a little bit.